Welcome to the Scroll Ensemble Classical Music Improvisation channel. I'm Robert. I'm fascinated by the 19th century and its relationship to improvisation. This is not yet my specialty, so I'm now going through all instrumental methods from the 19th century, well, all that I can find, to look for hints of improvisation. I'm convinced there is probably a bit more than we would expect, and therefore the title Unexpected Freedom in the 19th Century. At the moment I'm looking for instructions of improvisatory performance, like rubato, accentuation, articulation and ornamentation left to the performer, improvisational instructions, like how to improvise a prelude or how to modulate, and examples of typical improvisatory genres, like the theme and variations, prelude, cadenza, fantasia or capriccio. In this video, I wanted to look at Alexanders Anweisung zum Violoncellspiel. It's not an earth-shatering method in terms of improvisation information, but I think it will be interesting to share as many of the bits that I find, like a sort of research log, so you can come to your own conclusions and find what is interesting for your instrument or the period you are interested in, and finally put together all these small bits of information will hopefully paint a picture of a larger, still existing improvisation culture in the 19th century. So, Joseph Alexander was a cellist active in Duisburg, Germany, noted for his teaching and pedagogical works. And this particular method was popular enough to have been reprinted in 1854, so I think it really represents the 19th century, even though it originally was published in 1801. He also seems to have composed progressive variations, which could be perhaps used as a pedagogical work for improvising variations. I haven't found them yet, but let me know if you happen to have them, or if you know where I could get them, please. The bit in the source that I enjoyed the most was Alexander's description of what ornamentation is used for. This is sometimes glossed over in historical sources, or it just says that ornamentation is necessary to really perform a piece of music well. Here, Alexander spells out for us that ornamentation can be used for more emphasis, which I think means that using the ornamentation we can emphasize important or more beautiful moments in the music. We can use ornamentation for a more pleasing result, where the melodies can become more flowing, the harmonies more expressive, or the performer can add some elements that they are especially good at, and bringing light and shadow into the performance of a composition. This last bit I find especially beautiful. To me it suggests that ornamentation can bring this ebb and flow into the music, with more activity and less activity leading to this light and shadow. But perhaps to you it means something else. So I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Alexander says ornamentation is added by the composer, but could also be added by the performer. In order to know how to add ornamentation, you must follow your feelings, but only if you have good taste, of course. This sentiment echoes the usual 18th century comments on how to know where to add what ornament. He finishes by saying that there are no rules, but you should take care not to add too many or add them in the wrong place, so it's not as easy as just following your feeling. Sadly, Alexander doesn't give us any real examples of how to avoid adding too much ornamentation or what would be the right places to ornament. There's only this little allegretto, which is placed right after the description of the ornaments, which is a little etude for trills and schleifer in the description, where trills are used on this particular 8th note figure. However, as far as I can see, there are no schleifer in this exercise. So, well. And surely there are also some other places where we could use the trill in this particular music, but Alexander doesn't give any examples of that, or also not in any other etudes. The descriptions of the ornaments follow the usual approach in the 19th century, at least so far as I have found in the wind methods that I've looked at till now. There are some interesting ones that are described by Alexander, which I have seen less often on my journey so far. But again, tell me, maybe I'm totally wrong, and they can be found all over the 19th century. I found it interesting that trills are described as potentially starting from the note above, here, or from the note below, so not really from the note itself. The pral trill, or half trill, does start on the main note. There's an interesting correlation with the table that Bach made, where we can see the same symbols denoting these two types of trills. Many treatises that I've seen so far describe trills speeding up over time, but Alexander doesn't mention this. Of course, it could just be really obvious to him and so expected to be done, because that's how you always hear them. So far, I've rarely seen a turn with a half trill, as we can see here. But let me know, maybe you are very familiar with it. We'd love to hear. And then finally there's this schneller, which I also haven't seen so often, which is sort of like a mordant. It has to be played as quickly as possible. It's on the beat, but with an upper note. So the mordant would use the lower note, at least in the description of Alexander. If you want to know where all of these little bits of research lead to, you can watch the full lecture at the end of September on Patreon. Or, well, you could see it live if you're a student at the Conservatory in The Hague. So this month I'm starting an upgraded tier in Patreon, our Paganini tier. You might know that on average I do a lecture or workshop each month, and I always felt like it's such a pity that not more people can take advantage of the materials that I have. So for only €15 a month, you now can. From now on, I will be recording my final practice run of the lectures that I do, and they will be uploaded onto this tier in Patreon exclusively. For workshops, you will also be able to see all the materials that I use, and if necessary, I will also add a little video describing how to use those materials step by step. And also do let me know if you're tempted to join, but there's some specific aspect or thing that you're missing, and maybe I can add it and make it even better. So thank you for your help there. If you liked this video and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe, add notifications, comment, etc., etc. See you in the next video, and hopefully you have a lovely day.